All right, let's talk about it. China says we can get it however you want to get it. China says it's ready, and we should be concerned.
China said yesterday that they're ready for any kind of war with the U.S. Because of these tariffs that have been placed on them. Can you speak to how the administration is planning on responding to that?
Well, I think Secretary Hegseth has responded to that this morning. He said that America will always be prepared to defend itself, especially under the leadership of this president in the Oval Office. And that certainly remains true. Again, when it comes to tariffs, the president has been very tough on China, not just now with 20% and more with the reciprocal tariffs that will hit on April 2nd. But look at what he did in his first term. There were billions of dollars worth of tariffs that he implemented on China.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt responding to China's increasing aggression following President Trump's tariff plan going into effect this week. A Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson says, quote, if war is what the U.S. wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war, we're ready to fight till the end.
Now, everybody knows, about the tariffs. If you don't know, Trump is putting in tariffs. Now, the tariffs that were going into effect, he just paused the ones for Mexico, and I believe they paused the ones for Canada, but I know Mexico for sure. But the tariffs that are being used as a tool for Canada and Mexico have nothing to do with the tariffs in China. Maybe a little bit, but as far as the tariffs in China, they're not so much about the fentanyl. They're really more about imbalance in trade practice. Now, Trump, he wants to do reciprocal trade practices. So it's essentially kind of a trade war. He's increasing tariffs on China. And then in return, China wants to come back and increase tariffs. And Trump wants to come back with a reciprocal tariff. Now, at the end of the day, it's something important to pay attention to, because I feel like right now we're looking at all these Democrats who are going hard, saying they don't like Trump and he's an enemy of the state and this and this and that. And as Americans, there's a whole America First initiative, right? So whether you believe it or not, that's another story. But we have to understand that if something happens, as far as some type of war or anything against the country, that's when everybody will be like, oh, let me go ahead and rally around my own country, my own president, right? So China, just for perspective, China is no small fry no more. Everybody knows China has built themselves up. So China has 2 million active in military. They have about 2 million reserve. U.S. is smaller as far as man size or manpower. U.S. has about 1.7 million or 1.8 active and about 750,000 reserved as far as manpower. Now, as far as military might, U.S. is still, ranked as number one as far as having superior air power and superior technology. But the Chinese, at the same time, they do have some type of a missile that we don't have yet. But point being is that I think that the divide between the Democrats and Republicans is so crazy right now. And like I've been saying, I'm really not impressed with what's going on with the Democrats, the way they're acting. They're acting like crybabies, doing all this theatrical stuff over every change. Now, Trump came in. We all knew what he was going to do. Smaller government, reimagining what America could be, possibly bringing back manufacturing. None of that's going to happen overnight. But at the end of the day, and I've been talking about this for a while, America doesn't have any manufacturing. Some people are like, oh, it'll never come back. But I look at it and I say, well, why can't America manufacture things? Other countries manufacture things. China manufactures damn near everything. Taiwan manufactures many things. So when people say America, they act like it's some type of myth. That's because people haven't been living in an America that has manufactured anything for so long. So, and most of our presidents over the last 2 decades or more, really, going back 30 years, haven't really been focused on U.S. manufacturing. They've been focused on globalization, right? So I'm not against globalization. There's a place for all of it. But ultimately, this particular president, Donald Trump, 47, is focused on an America First agenda. So that's going to include certain tariffs, and I think people have to understand the context of why he's doing it. So whether you agree or disagree is another story, but understanding why things are being done is important. Now, China is saying we can get it how you live it. So let me play a little more of this, and I think people should take this seriously because the world is changing. We gotten very comfortable in America and we're kind of lulled to sleep like we were before 9/11 because we feel like, well, no one's ever going to do anything to us. We can't get any type of wars. Nothing can change. We're just America, the almighty, who wants everything. We want to loan to everybody, produce nothing, buy dependent on all our products from another country and still think we'll be okay. This is crazy. So let me play this.
Joining me now, Gatestone Institute senior fellow and the author of Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America, Gordon Chang, back with us. Gordon, was that a threat?
It certainly was a threat, and it showed the unhinged mentality of the Chinese regime right now. And by the way, it is not the response of a regime that is growing at around 5%. What it really says is that the Chinese economy is around zero. And so that's why they make threats like this. But, I think it's really important for the Secretary of Defense to say, no, yeah, we're prepared. Because China's form of diplomacy has always been intimidation. That's especially true under Xi Jinping. And we need to say, we're not intimidated.
Well, look, China announced it's increasing its defense budget by 7.2% this year, totaling $245 billion. The Communist Party also reportedly building a huge nuclear-powered aircraft to rival the biggest ship in America's fleet. President Trump announced the creation of an Office of Shipbuilding to bring commercial and military building back to the United States. Watch this.
To boost our defense industrial base, we are also going to resurrect the American shipbuilding industry, including commercial shipbuilding and military shipbuilding. We will create a new Office of Shipbuilding in the White House and offer special tax incentives to bring this industry home to America where it belongs. We used to make so many ships.
Gordon,
Let me pause it for a second. And these are some of the things that there's such a divide as far as ideology, as far as America. The people who are for Trump, as far as the larger ideas, do believe that America could be different in the future. And I think that people have to start imagining what America could be in the future. People are so focused on what's going on right now. And those of us who have children, who are going to have children, my grandchildren, what will America be in 30, 40, 50 years? Are we going to continue to buy everything from China, make nothing? I don't understand how a country can sustain itself. We have a ridiculous debt. We're overspending. Our government is bloated. I just don't understand how people don't see these things as a problem. So I think that it's important to not only, of course, build militarily, but also it's not just about being ready militarily. It's also about trying to create more business in America. The business has just been deteriorating as far as our domestic business here. It's been deteriorating. Why? Because of globalization. There was a time where China produced not much of anything. If you go back to the 80s, China was, pretty desolate compared to what it is now. But they focused a lot on their infrastructure. They focused on manufacturing and making goods. Now, are those goods good? A lot of it's trash, but regardless, they make a lot of the things we depend on. So there's no reason to think that this is going to be sustainable long term. And I think that the tariffs are all part of not only trying to even trade imbalance, but also trying to, force China and Canada and Mexico in relation to the fentanyl. That's another thing. So there's so many things coming in to this country and so many things that are negative as far as the direction of this country. And I think we have to start getting to a place where at least we agree on some of the negativity, because the Democrats aren't talking about fentanyl. They're not talking about illegal immigration in any valuable way as far as solving it. They're not talking about trade imbalance. They're not talking about manufacturing at all. They're really just talking about how much they hate Trump and Elon. And that's disturbing when you think about the future.
I know that you're skeptical about China's building this aircraft. You're not buying it, are you?
Well, we've seen images, and those images tell us that there are certain parts that China's put together, but it's not clear that it'll be the fourth aircraft carrier. Now, eventually they will build what they'll call the Type 004, but I think it's at this point we've got to be just cautious. But in any event, we know that China eventually will build its fourth aircraft carrier. And the other thing we know, Maria, that this 7.2% budget increase, which could actually be higher, it's higher than the growth target of around 5%. And it's certainly higher than the actual growth rate, which is probably, as I mentioned, somewhere around zero, which shows you that the Chinese generals and admirals are now got extraordinary political power because they're getting larger and larger shares of the Chinese central government budget. That's been true for quite some time now, and it shows China's getting ready to go to war.
Yeah, Joe Borelli.
Gordon, over the past couple of months and years, you've sort of inferred that there's a quality versus quantity issue with China, and we're talking about the nuclear submarine, but I'm also reading about, new high-altitude drones and other technologies that the Chinese military is bringing to bear. Is that delta still as wide as it once was between the quality of Chinese products and the counterparts in America?
Well, Chinese ships, for instance, are getting much better. And also the Chinese now have weapons that we don't have, like hypersonic cruise missiles. And those are really important because they will materially affect the outcome, especially in the first days of a war. So we've got to be concerned about that.
Well, look, man, I don't think, just my everyday mind, I don't think China is ready, or I think China's ready for war. I don't think they want war. I don't think America wants war. Nobody wants war. It's not going to be good for anybody. However, the world stage definitely is starting to change in relation to Donald Trump. And, again, all the Democrats that are mad right now and anybody who's angry has to realize that Trump will only be in office for 4 years. There'll be somebody else running. And right now on the Democratic side, there aren't any answers to some of these looming questions. As far as trade and manufacturing, there isn't anybody talking about anything on the other side. And there isn't anybody with any vision from what I see. They just angry about the current time and what's going on now. But as far as America's future, I have heard really nothing from the Democratic Party as far as America's future. That part is the most disturbing thing. And I think that the American people, by and large, are looking at that. Of course, everybody's caught up in their emotion. They're caught up in the government slimming down. I lost my job. How dare he? He's focused on this. And, but the long term is the bigger question that we have to start really thinking about. What is America? What is the vision for America 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now? Because I think that people feel like America is on autopilot, and that's the most dangerous thing, is that we feel like we just are who we are. And in my community, in the black community, all we're being fed is about civil rights and racism, and America's trying to hold us back and destroy us. There's just so much distraction. We're not talking about what's the future look like for our kids, because at the end of the day, racism, civil rights, all these things, whether a transgender plays in a sport or not, whether you hate Donald Trump, whether you feel like Doge is trying to steal from the government, all these things on the bigger scale. Again, remember when 9/11 happened, everybody forgot all of that stuff. People didn't like George Bush. They said he stole the election, this and that. I don't like him. We wanted Al Gore. And then when them planes hit those buildings, we all forgot about all of that stuff. All of that stuff didn't matter anymore. Everybody was like, you know what? We need to be safe. We need to focus on America. And I hope that doesn't happen, where something bad has to happen for us to kind of focus on inward to look at our country, So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think China is ready to click it up with us and get down like that? I don't think they are. I think they're really just talking stuff because they're angry about the trade deficit. Excuse me, they're angry about the tariffs, not the trade deficit. They're angry about the tariffs. Now, I was laughing. The internet streets or internet comments, YouTube comments are undefeated. So they were talking about China's quality. And one person said, well, if their military equipment is anything like their products, they're not going to be much of a threat. But that's something funny to laugh at. But, listen, China is a huge country. They have a huge military. They have a lot of technology. So their military stuff is not going to be like Temu products. So we should be definitely aware. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Crucial Combo.